Recently, Jim Sterling released his review of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, where he gave it a 7 out of 10 and said that he liked it multiple times and that it was a good game. But that wasn't enough for the Zelda fanboys. He was insulted and told to kill himself, all the usual stuff that happens when fanboys poop their pampers. When Metacritic added his score to their critic scores, it lowered Breath of the Wild from 98 to 97. Oh, how horrible! A whole percent, even though it got 2 scores of 6 from Slant Magazine and Gamer.no. Of course, going through Slant Magazine's review, you could see the same vitriolic reaction Jim Sterling got. But I don't think their site got DDoS'd, and I don't know about Gamer.no because I can't read whatever language it's written in. These are people who tie their ego to a metric score. They're people who need their own opinions validated and parroted back to them. These are morons that think they're hurting people like Jim Sterling by DDoSing his ad-free site because they think his review is clickbait. It really shows how stupid people are. There are people in the comments section on Slant Reviews saying that a 3 out of 5 rating is not the same as a 6 out of 10. People are trying to argue that a 3 out of 5 is on par with 8 out of 10. Did these people flunk basic math? When you simplify 6 out of 10, you get 3 out of 5. 60% of 5 is 3. When you divide 3 into 5, you get 0.6. Move the decimal over to the right 2 spaces, and it's still 60%. There's people saying that if you don't possess the ability to critically evaluate a game, that you shouldn't be doing it. Whatever that means. I think we all possess the ability to critically evaluate something, and then they go on to sing their own opinion of the game. Like somehow their opinion is the only one that matters. If you're that damn stupid to think that a games critic would compromise their own integrity to slight you and only you just for clicks, are you that self-centered? Is your ego that weak? If a game you're defending is so great, why aren't you playing it? Why are you participating in a comment war instead of playing the game you bought? Do you really have that much free time? What do you do for a living if you have ample time to not only sit around and play games, but also continue long, drawn-out comment wars? Stuff like this is a cornucopia of insanity, stupidity, and egotism, where it's a personal affront to your own well-being that someone did not like a game as much as you.
Someone who I'll never interact with on a personal basis didn't like this game as much as I did. Clickbait, clickbait. They're disagreeing with popular opinion because clickbait. Nah, 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 microaggressions, blah, 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 sexism.
It's people like that who will be the catalyst for governments across the world to start eugenics programs, and that is something I'm starting to look forward to. These people should be rounded up and have their reproductive organs removed and then beaten with a cane because people who freak out about someone else's opinion on a video game does not need to breed. Looking at a comment section filled to the brim with that crap makes me want to wish that a Children of Men situation would happen. And if this trend continues, as it is in all aspects of life, not just games, it shows that the human race deserves to go extinct after a nuclear winter caused by some world leader calling the other one a poopy head. We all have this wonderful gift, our brain. We can think and rationalize things. We can reason and work out complex problems. But yet we're throwing it all away for stupid bullshit. After you blow your load on a game, after you slide that $60 condom off and throw it away, does someone else's opinion of a game really matter to you? You traded the game in to get another one, and if you traded it away, I guess it didn't matter that much to you then, did it? Because if it was the best game ever made, you would have kept it. And in the case of Nintendo games, I think most people do hold on to them as they do hold their value. But my argument of the $60 condom still stands with most games. If I had a kid and caught them acting like that, I would slap my non-existent child upside the head so hard, it'd be like resetting a computer back to factory settings. I find numerical rating systems obsolete. We all know that the reason Game Informer gives all big AAA titles nothing less than a 9 out of 10 is because they're owned by GameStop, and they want to sell all the copies they bought so they can get them in to sell as used or to get those sweet, sweet trade-ins to be used as credit for other games. That's why my rating system doesn't really use numerical bases, but gives an idea if it's worth your time. I've been asked to talk about the origin of my rating system and how it actually works a few times, because it doesn't really mesh with the classic 1 through 10 scores. A long time ago, before I even came up with the idea for this channel, a friend of mine introduced me to a movie review site called Spill.com. They had a 5-level rating system. From best to worst, the scores were better than sex, full price, matinee, rental, and some old bullshit, which was a good way of saying how you should spend your money if you wanted to see it. That's where I got the idea for my rating system. However, I didn't want to copy theirs exactly, but I thought it was a unique way of giving a rating to a game without actually using a number system. For those of you who've been with my channel since the early days as I figured out where I wanted to take it, when I was reviewing the 2 Animaniacs games for the puzzle platformer Genesis game and the more arcade brawler SNES counterpart is when I instituted the system, as I thought it would better clarify if you should play a game or not. Back then, there was only 8 scores. Gift from God, good, decent, bargain bin fodder, tolerable, trash, liquid shit, and Bubsy 3D. Gift from God basically meant that the game was as close to perfection as it could get. Everything about it was just flawless, regardless of how hard I tried to find a problem. And the game gives me more stuff than its original price tag was worth. It goes beyond the distance and exceeded my expectations. Good means that the game was good, making itself self-explanatory. Might have been a bit repetitive or had some slow parts that dragged its feet as it broke the pace of the game. Maybe a little imperfections were showing, but were forgivable. Decent was that the game had its moments of fun, maybe a bug or glitch showed up. Some parts were boring or extremely repetitive, around a 50-50 ratio of fun and dragging its feet sections. Bargain bin fodder meant that you should wait for the game to be discounted heavily if you have to own it. Like when the games are taken out of the case at Walmart and put on the display rack or tossed in that bin with all the other stuff that doesn't sell. It's mediocre at its best and worst, and it's not going to be anything more. It might have some fun moments, but most of the time it's just, eh. It controls fine and plays fine, but it's not just that fun of a game. There might be some bugs or glitches, but nothing game-breaking. Tolerable is where we start to get into the territory of a game having glaring issues. Boring story, interesting gameplay, or boring gameplay with an interesting story. There could be issues with bugs or controls, but you're able to push through it. You'd be better off borrowing it from someone who is foolish enough to buy it, as while you can play it, why would you want to? Trash is that it's bad. The game controls poorly, the story is boring, the gameplay isn't fun at all. There could be a good concept underneath, a diamond that's so in the rough that it's still a piece of coal. You could play it, but there's really no reason to do so, as there's more than likely a better game that did its ideas better. Liquid shit, which is a phrase coined by my friend Josh, who was in my Sega All-Stars Racing Transformed review, and when me and him unboxed his Nintendo Switch. It means that the game is buggy, controls horribly, gameplay is slow, boring, just bad. The story is not only written badly, but it's probably stupid to boot. If a game gets this rating, you can attribute it to being completely unfinished. Games like Sonic 06 or No Man's Sky. Bubsy 3D means that the game is unplayable in every way imaginable and probably unimaginable. Every idea the developers had was bad. The graphics have to be terrible, the sound has to be grating on the ears, the game controls like crap and feels broken no matter what. The gameplay is not only boring, but it's full of bugs or collision detection issues that make it difficult for all the wrong reasons. There can be absolutely no redeeming qualities for it whatsoever other than it's able to load. Later on, I introduced 2 new ratings. Full price went between Gift from God and Good, and rental was put between Bargain Bin Fodder and Tolerable. Full price was that the game was worth its weight in gold. You could put down the minimum $60 and get everything you were expecting. The only reason why it didn't qualify for the Gift for God rating was that it didn't go the extra distance, it just met all my expectations. Rental means that there's absolutely no reason for you to own it. If bargain bin fodder means that you had to own it for some odd reason, then pay for it after it's been discounted, rental means that there's absolutely no reason you should own it regardless of what excuse you come up with because it's not worth it. Meaning that there's no reason to hold on to it, and that it's better to use a service like Gamefly or Redbox if you have to spend money to play it. Then there's a few one-time ratings. I gave Rascal a worse than Bubsy 3D rating, only to retcon it as liquid shit after doing a second Bubsy 3D review. It's never been seen again and not considered an official rating. Then there was the legendary ratings, a good one and a bad one. The bad one was used for big rigs over-the-road racing. It was laughably bad. It was hardly an engine test and was sold as a complete product. It's really hard to find a game that bad. But with Steam Greenlight and its lack of quality control, those types of games have been more common, so the purpose of that version became moot. Then there was the good legendary, which was used twice, I think. But I realized that I used that one a little too haphazardly and wasn't really happy with those reviews that I gave that score out to. Because of those reasons, the legendary rating was retired. There's a few reasons why I went from 8 ratings to 10. It was also to help by discerning a score by just looking at when the bar flashes. You'll get the usual 10 number score at the same time, if you like something numerical based. Secondly, people would get mad when I gave a game a good rating and not Gift from God score. The old good score translated to an 8.75 out of 10, because my rating system required people to do math to get a number score. And finally, I thought there needed to be some middle ground between Gift from God and good, so I added in full price between them, and rental was the result of needing just one more to get that 10th score in. I think that numerical scores need to disappear, and instead scores should be instituted that give people advice on how they should spend their money allocated for their gaming budget should be spent. Because while they are vague scores, they make people think before slapping money down. If Jim Sterling said that Breath of the Wild was a pretty decent game instead of giving it a numerical score of 7 out of 10, which is a more firm rating, then I don't think he would have gotten the backlash that he got, as saying that something is decent is a little more open interpretation. But that may be something we have to do. Tricking these psychopathic fanboys who stick their heads under a soft-serve ice cream machine in the shape of Link's butt into accepting a more vague score so they have to actually think before they react.